I was watching the game last night, and when they would show Pete Carroll on the sidelines, I thought of two different coaches for two different reasons. I thought of Bill Belichick, and I thought of Deion Sanders. Pete Carroll's older than Bill Belichick, but he has that youthful enthusiasm. He has a college feel to him in the pros. He was incredible at USC. He's done an unbelievable job with Seattle. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And I started to wonder about Deion Sanders with his collegial feel of, that spirit that you have, that you want to be out there. You're one of the guys, you're a cheerleader. And Pete Carroll is that, but he's also a very bright coach. But I wondered about that. Here we are looking at Bill Belichick. Has the game passed him by? Is he on the hot seat? Could they fire him? Would Bill Belichick, the GM, fire Bill Belichick, the head coach? Pete Carroll's still making it work, and he's making it work with Geno Smith. He parted ways with his Hall of Fame quarterback, and they got in a great draft haul, and here they are again. Now, he's got Geno Smith, and I wondered if he would be around for a rebuild. And at age 70, now he's 72, and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down, but it was just strange. I was thinking, he's older than Belichick, but he has that college feel that Deion has at Colorado. And so when you say, hey, could Deion make this work in the pros? Yeah. Like having that atmosphere, not every player responds to it, but Pete seems to bring in the players that respond to him. But big win last night. Not a good game to watch, but Seahawks roll 24-3. Daniel Jones, the turnovers continue to happen. It wasn't his fault, but it was his fault. You know, when he has plays where, okay, don't make a mistake, then he makes a mistake, it's his fault. But he was under pressure. I think he was pressured 26 times last night. He was sacked 10 times. He was hit 15 times. You're not going to win that game. And for the Giants, now you have to start to wonder, if you're Saquon Barkley, are you rushing, no pun intended, to get back to play for this team? Did the Giants make a mistake by going all in on Daniel Jones? Should they have waited a year? Should they have franchised him? But they made the playoffs last year. They won a playoff game last year. Oh, the conundrum of the New York football teams. Do you realize, here's an interesting stat for you. There are two NFL teams who have yet to run an offensive play with the lead this season. The Jets and the Giants.
Ow! Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. This is the stat of the day.
Stat of the day brought to you by Panini America, the official trading cards of the Dan Patrick Show. Imagine being a New York sports fan today. Here we are in October, and you got no, not the Yankees. No, not the Mets. No postseason baseball action. Then you have the Jets and the Giants. No Aaron Rodgers. Taylor Swift has left town. What do you have left? How about them Knicks, man? Let's go. Come on now.
You may have a point.
Who's with me? When did the Rangers season start? Going to be a long fall here. Sliding into the weekend brought to you by our partners, King's Hawaiian. They want you to get together with friends and family and enjoy the weekend by making every Sunday a Slider Sunday. I started to wonder about this, too, when I'm watching. You know, a lot of times when there's a trade and you go, oh, my gosh, the Rams, they got Matthew Stafford. And then we don't look at what the other team got. It's the future draft picks. And then all of a sudden you realize Detroit did well with those future draft picks. And Jared Goff has played well. Russell Wilson traded to Denver. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender. What did Denver give up? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What's Pete Carroll doing? Geno Smith? And then all of a sudden you look at who they got. So they get a starting tight end in Noah Fant. Charles Cross is an offensive tackle, first-round pick. And then you saw Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. Witherspoon came over and did damage. And Witherspoon last night had the pick six. He had a couple of sacks. And, it's one of those where you have a standalone game, and all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, they got him. They got a starting offensive tackle. They got a couple other players, and then you get a starting tight end in Noah Fant. That's where you build or rebuild, and that's exactly what Seattle's done. But Seattle's 3-1. I don't know how good they are. I do like they have skilled position. I like their running back situation. And Geno has played well. He has. And Pete Carroll and John Schneider, the GM, have done a wonderful job in reinventing the Seahawks. You start to look at a team like Denver goes 5-12, worst offense, and then all of a sudden, Seattle makes the playoffs. They get Geno Smith, and they're off to a 3-1 start. And then you get impact players, and Witherspoon and also Cross. It's not the Legion of Boom, but it's different. But it is successful, and it's Pete Carroll. And you're not, if you would have kept Russell Wilson, the cost would have been prohibitive, and that would have kept you from rebuilding that team. Geno Smith's contract is friendly, team friendly. It's kind of middle of the pack there. But it's something that, you can build on, and they've been able to do that. They've surrounded him with good players. It's a good, solid, all-around team. They're going to be a wild card team this year. I think you look at the wild card teams in the NFC, and it's probably going to be Dallas and Seattle. They're not going to win their divisions, I don't think. But Seattle is there once again, and with the impact players. Here's Pete Carroll talking about his rookie cornerback.
I've never thought he wouldn't play like this. This is why we took him, to be active and to show that he gets this game of football, and it comes easy to him, and he's an explosive, dynamic player.
Yes, he is. Out of Illinois, not exactly a football factory, but he was highly regarded, as far as the scouts. They really liked him. You just didn't watch any Illinois football. But he was worth watching last night. It was one of those games where you go, all right, can the Giants do something? Like they were close to doing something to make it interesting. And then they were the Giants. I'm looking at Daniel Jones here. Here are the numbers. Let's see, sacked 10 times. Since he came into the league in 2019, Daniel Jones leads the NFL with 24 fumbles lost. You put together that with 40 interceptions, that's 64 turnovers, tied for the fourth most in the NFL over that span.
Stat of the day, stat of the day, bop, bop. Stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day.
Hey, how about we go with worst quarterback situation right now, Jets or Giants? Because both are tough.
Well, you're stuck with Daniel Jones, and you're going to owe him $90 million.
Daniel Jones essentially had those same crappy numbers that you just mentioned, his turnovers to touchdowns.
Yeah.
He basically had those same numbers when he signed his new contract.
Yeah. Still don't understand why they didn't say, let's see one more year with you. I would just make him a run-first quarterback.
Because he looks great when he does that.
Yeah, but I would just say, you know what? We're going to design plays for you to run. Because if we just say you're going to be a pocket passer and then you occasionally run, I would have him running a lot. I'd have him be like Justin Fields. Just run. Get 1,000 yards for us, and let's see. Because the way this is going, it's not going to be pretty at the end. Yes.
And it's funny, too, because he doesn't get the, what are you doing? Just slide. You got to slide once in a while. It's like, now, Daniel, go out there, go head first. Try and get as many yards as you possibly can. Don't worry about sliding. Just put yourself out there.
Well, at least if you're a Jets fan, you know that help is on the way with Aaron Rodgers. Like, at least you know the light at the end of the tunnel is not an oncoming train. Rodgers will be there maybe late this year, but probably next year, more likely. As for the Giants, you're like, he's our quarterback. Plus, the offensive line is not good at all. And you can't fix that. The Jets' offensive line, that's a work in progress too, but the Mannings were talking about that last night. You can't just go, hey, let me plug and play a couple of these guys, or, hey, let's devise a scheme here. It's not going to happen. And I think you got to factor that in as well. Saquon coming back from an injury. When's he coming back from an injury? You have the Bills and the Dolphins on the road. And then your ease-up game is supposed to be the Commanders. And they're not a given anymore. Like, the Commanders are competitive. Just ask the Eagles. So they could be 1-5. And I didn't know if it was a standalone anomaly, an aberration when they got blown out by Dallas, but no, that's probably who the Giants are this year. Now, they barely beat the Cardinals in one of the bigger collapses we've seen in recent history. They barely beat the Cardinals. Shouldn't have, but they did. And now you look at this team and you're trying to pick up the pieces. And their head coach was the coach of the year last year, Brian Dable. Yeah, Marv.
What if they just have a Bears type of season where they have the first or second pick in the draft in this really quarterback-laden draft, and they're like, oh, we signed Daniel Jones to this $90 million contract.
Yeah. Well, you could keep him one more year. Let's say you got a quarterback. Let's say Drake May was available. I don't know. Throw it out there. Because Caleb Williams is going to go number 1 overall. Also, do the Giants get into a tanking mode at any point here? Is it too soon to say, oh, you know what, maybe because you have assets that you can trade. Saquon Barkley, Waller, tight end. Like, you have a couple pieces there that if you really want to, you could probably say, all right, let's offload some of this talent and get some draft picks here. Yes, he.
Like Waller, you brought in as an anti-tanking move.
I know.
That was a, hey, let's try to win move.
Oh, man, it was praised. It was like, yeah.
That was like a, hey, I think we could have a good season move. We get a couple of pieces move.
We might win 2 playoff games, man. But then, Saquon gets hurt. Daniel Jones giveth and taketh away. And plus, you're in that division. So you got Philly and Dallas, and Washington is not. Washington is better than the Giants. Like, you're going to, right now, finish 4th.
They're like record ruiners, Washington.
Yeah, that's a good team. It's on the cusp of being a good team, but they're competitive. Yes, Marv.
It's wild that they're a team you can actually root for now that they have, new ownership.
Yeah.